We don't get too political on this podcast, but I am willing to delve in this because the conspiracy has to do with housing.
Literal in fact, I'm not the biggest conspiracy theorist, but I keep my mind open to any possibility.
General rule about conspiracy theories is that the bigger the conspiracy, the less likely it is.
I don't rule out most conspiracy theories unless it can factually, like ironclad, be proven to be wrong. Welcome back to MillenniUP.
Welcome back.
Double L, double N,
Double N,
double P. Podcast.
Find us on Instagram.
Apparently it's hard to find. So just if you're unsure of how many letters, just put 2.
Would we consider renaming the podcast? This name is your baby, but I asked 5 people, and I had to put it in their phones.
If you think we should rename this podcast, let us know. But if you think we should, you need to come with a suggestion.
That's right. No, it is hard to spell, but it is catchy.
I really don't think it is, but apparently I'm outnumbered.
Well, anyway, let's talk about what we were talking about earlier today.
Conspiracy theories. Literal in fact, I'm not the biggest conspiracy theorist, but I keep my mind open to any possibility. And it usually errs on the side of conspiracy.
Okay.
That might come from a deeper rooted thing of lack of trust in the intentions of most people, but especially the government. So.
Okay. So we don't get too political on this podcast, but I am willing to delve in this because the conspiracy has to do with housing.
Yes.
So what is the conspiracy that you don't necessarily believe this, but this is one you've heard, or you believe this and you want to talk about?
I think there is
some.
I don't rule out most conspiracy theories unless it can factually, like ironclad, be proven to be wrong, like flat out wrong. But I think there are multiple sides and possibilities of things this possibly being the casing. So, all to say, what are we talking about is a couple different parts to it. And like part A has to do with appraisers and the house prices and how rapidly they're going up. And is the government going to do anything to slow it down? And why aren't they? And in my head, my opinion, and that of some others, is, well, you can tax more on a higher priced property. Mm-hmm. The government gets more taxes on that. So why would they slow that down? And then there's part B of, it's fine, you're going to debunk all of this. And
no,
I'm
listening. I'm
thinking.
I'm unpacking.
And by the way, guys, we had this was not a pre-planned episode. This was Seth and I on the phone on my drive over here.
This is like every day on our team.
This was a conversation we had after we said we were going to get off the phone that transpired into this conversation. And I said, why don't we just record this phone call and put this out as an episode? So that's what we're doing. So that's part A to this. And then part B is a little bit more kind of like grander of, is the government not stopping the unaffordability of housing for the average consumer so that it can get into the hands of these hedge funds to be able to house rentals and make the money that way to then be taxed for the government to get, so that the appeal of and the ability of and attainability of homeownership is going to drastically drop.
Okay. So the indictment is that the government and the media and corporations are incentivizing and hoping that affordability worsens in the country in order to line their pockets with transfer tax dollars?
Well, I mean, transfer tax dollars, property tax dollars.
Property tax dollars for new assessments, new tax bills, property tax. Okay.
And then the rental income to be able to be taxed annually.
Okay, so basically that, so the corporations get fat and happy because they're buying houses, they get rentals, they get a cash flowing asset, and then the government gets happy because they can pay off of that. They get income tax off of those corporations.
Yes.
Okay.
You explain things a lot better than I did. They come out of my mouth, but not always very well. But yes, that is it.
It's a gift.
That's why we said this during takes, during episodes, that he's here with the nerdy brain and I'm just here for looks, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. So, no, I think that, and listen, I am a huge student of conspiracy theories. I enjoy conspiracy theories. I enjoy because I'm a big critical thinker. I like to think about, listen, the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's people out there with malintent. General rule about conspiracy theories is that the bigger the conspiracy, the less likely it is, because you would need more people to keep their mouth shut about the conspiracy. So inherently, a conspiracy.
I would love to know what you think on my conspiracy theory about Princess Diana. Then.
Well, then
we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
Maybe not on here.
Yeah, maybe not on here.
If you want to know, ask me.
Start another podcast.
That would be a good one.
So there are 145 million housing units in this country. I don't know if there is. I think that the idea that there is a escalating affordability problem in the country, I don't think is necessarily intentional as much as incompetent. So affordability has.
So they're not being extra smart; they're just being extra dumb.
Yeah, but that's not a conspiracy then. A conspiracy is inherently meaning
that it's an intentional
it's an
move.
Intent.
Yeah.
It's an intent for a desired result.
So what you're saying is they're not smart enough to be.
Well, listen. Inherent. The entire economy is not. There's no levers in the bottom of the White House where people can just pull on it. It's a big system that we have created. I mean, money is a construct, right? I mean, it's like, well, this entire society is a construct. This isn't how we were biologically designed. We're not. We're doing the best we can. I always say an economist is the best thing we can create to anticipate or to predict the monster that we've created, which is the economy. I mean, so the idea that Biden or Trump gets in and it's like then economic things are going to improve or I mean, yes, there's certain policies that they can control, but the idea of a 35% of the GDP of this country being able to control that in such a way where it gets so unaffordable for people, I just don't know if it's that other. I think it's really just the fact that we've made some pretty bad choices as a country. And I do believe there's a lot of favoritism to the corporate world. I've said this before on this podcast that wages stopped keeping up with the price of goods and services in the 70s.
I think everybody can agree to that one.
Everyone can agree to that.
I don't think that's an agreement or a disagreement. That's fact.
That is fact. And so, the affordability crisis actually started a long time ago.
It's just gotten significantly.
It's
more
just
drastic.
been like, listen, we've done about 7 years worth of real estate transactions in 3, and it's, in the end, I don't believe though that the government is sitting with cigars and bourbon in a back room in DC and saying, hey, listen, Harry, like we're going to make this thing so unaffordable that you guys can just come in and grab all these properties because, if that's the case, like these corporations aren't getting discounts on the property. If it was a matter of them being transferred at a 20% reduction, but think about if they buy a $500,000 house to rent and then nobody can afford anything, they're not going to get the rental income to make it worth their while. They'd be better off taking that $500,000 and putting it somewhere else in the world, in the economy, buying gold or Bitcoin or doing something like that. These properties are there are a lot of overhead. You have to staff it. You need property management. You need handymen. You got to pay to go to court when the people won't leave. It's not necessarily.
And that's going to translate very directly into a topic we're going to talk about another time of becoming a landlord and everything that goes into it.
Yeah, and goes into it. Yeah, and it's a lot like a bank wanting to take back your house. And we've talked about this before, where it's
this is the part of the conspiracy theory that I'm not completely drinking the juice on, that they're going to be getting all purchased up by corporations because of all of these things, because of all the things that do go into.
Well, wait, then who's going to buy the houses?
Well, some citizens. But
okay.
I think that, because you're right. I mean, as they amp up, but there are logistics as far as the cost goes into it. I think that's going to be the one thing that keeps things going from, homeowner to primary residence.
Yeah, but here's the thing too. Why would the banks be into this? If the corporations are buying these things for cash, then why don't the banks want mortgages? They want us to pay the interest.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen in this. If it was a matter of escalating things to the point where people couldn't afford it, how does that give an advantage to banks? How does it give an advantage to the massive, corporation like Home Depot? A Home Depot is a huge feeder. Lowe's, those types of things are a huge feeder for home buyers who go in on Saturday and Sunday mornings with a list and they do happy homeowner shit, or they hire a contractor. And it's like, people don't understand that when it's not just home sales, it's like all the ancillary things that go along with it. Mm-hmm. If you have homes that are not affordable, you have less titles, you have less mortgages, you have less inspections, you have less things needing to be done in the house.
So then to your point though, so as far as, because we were also talking earlier about how far off we are from a correction or a buyer's market, or saying like, but Lord knows when that's going to happen and the timing of it. And we're talking about, layoffs and,
mm-hmm.
People losing jobs is what leads to a correction.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things, would that lead to a correction?
Yeah. So I was saying on our call that, there's two ways to create a price reduction or reduction in price of homes. One is an internal and one is an external thing. One is an internal thing where it's like, yeah, okay, the price of homes goes up so high that, people can't afford them anymore.
Right.
And that's just what it is. They still have jobs. They're not getting foreclosed upon, blah, blah, blah.
That's just straight up purely supply and demand.
That's a pure supply and demand. But there's going to be a point. It doesn't. Regardless of what people say, there is a point where buyers are going to be like, "This is too expensive. We're not doing it." That is equally
weeks of inventory.
Perilous.
I was actually just in my accredited buyers accreditation course, and
that's right. You're an ABR now.
I am.
What's up?
Accredited buyer representative.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one. And something that we actually did talk about. One thing I actually did get from that out of the 2 very, very, very full days of just these are contracts, blah, blah, blah. But part of that was what metric to follow to be able to track when you're going to be able to get closer to a correction or a buyer's market or a seller's market is seeing the weeks of inventory reports. Yeah. So keeping an eye on that.
Still very low here in Philly.
Yes.
Still very low.
But once that starts changing, that's when you're going to start seeing corrections. That's the one metric that is going to be able to be the pinpoint of deciding where you're falling on the spectrum of sellers, buyers.
In a microeconomic terms, that's absolutely right. Macroeconomic, I've been saying for the last year, all I'm watching is jobs. That's the thing. That's the external thing. So we talked about the internal thing. The external thing is job loss. And people work at Amazon, they work at the dollar store, they work at the country club, they work at all these places. These jobs, people lose their employment, they lose their income. And if enough people do, it will stop people from buying homes. And so both of those scenarios, though, are very abrupt and destructive. Mm-hmm. The goal here is to moderate home prices where it is not super crazy and homes can still remain affordable, but we don't have some massive crash. Because when we have some massive crash, everyone's like, oh, it's great. I always tell my clients, like, you're waiting for a crash, but then think about what your psychology is going to be when you're in a crash. Like, you're not going to want to go out and buy some massive house.
Right. Crash means like your job is at risk.
Yeah. I mean, for most people. So it's like, oh, I can get a better price on the house. I can get a better interest rate because if in a crash, the Fed will lower interest rates to incentivize
It's like I joke
growth.
When during the crash, I was too busy being a junior in high school, not buying real estate.
Yeah, exactly. So that be careful what you wish for. But I don't buy into the idea that the government is somehow some shadowy character trying to drive up prices for homes. I think just what it is that we had a very, very unprecedented event in COVID. There were a lot of people that were laid off. We needed to incentivize businesses to keep doing business and muddling through, and that created an enormous amount of inflation, and now we are paying the price for it.
Yeah, I just wish that there was any emphasis on any focus on putting in some kind of regulations to be able to just slow this curve a little bit.
In terms of what, corporations buying?
No, home prices. I mean, I'm just talking about home prices
now.
Well,
I mean, then you're talking about...
And corporations, yeah. Rental, I have a very strong stance on, rentals are investment properties. There is a demand for rentals. I'm not gonna talk shit on.
There's actually been in Philadelphia. There's been rental demand has actually waned.
Well, there's also been rental regulations put into place. You have to get your place to be, you have to get a permit to be able to have it be a rental. Like there's been a lot that's been cracked down on that to be able to, and now because of it, more inventory in the city. And where around here has been able to get a little bit more of a slowing market? The city.
Yeah.
There's been regulations put into place to be able to help that. Anywhere else, though, it's like nothing is being regulated. It's just like everything's just like.
Well, what this country does, Jen, is we are very, very big proponents of capitalism solving our economic problems. And there's other countries that think communism or socialism or some other kind of ism is going to fix it, and that's how they structured their. There's a certain amount government will tip the scale. They'll put their thumb on the scale. They'll whatever analogy you want to use. This country has decided, outside of a Fed rate, they have decided that they're going to allow this to all kind of work its way out, and I don't believe it's working.
Right.
And that's really, I think, what people are feeling.
Approach. But that's anything. Like, okay, you take an approach, you make a decision, see how it plays out, identify that it's not working, do something different. Here's
the thing that I remember. I don't remember who said it, but I remember hearing it. I mean, like, that's absolutely right. Is that this country is all capitalism on the way up. Everybody, while they're making money, everybody is the smartest guy in the room. That goes right down from the individual to the corporation. The corporations get massive net profits, massive bonuses or whatever. But then as soon as something hits the fan,
help me.
The government has to come in with bailouts and do that type of thing. The same thing with individuals. People have jobs, they're making lots of money, and then when they lose their job, they need unemployment. They need the assistance. They need friends and family. And it's a very, and right now we are still in that capitalistic mode where we're thinking capitalism is just going to work and cycle this whole housing market through and everything's going to be fine. It's all about soft landing and everything's hunky-dory. My worry is that if there is some massive thing that happens, the government's going to be called on again. And I don't know what the mechanism is that they're going to do other than just print more money and bail people out, which creates more of what we just went through. The difference being is that if they print a lot of money in a down market, it's not going to be like COVID, because COVID, the government got surprised. Like, they printed all this money and the market just freaking exploded and it created inflation. God. The idea of a down market where the money is flowing a lot slower and you pump money into it, it's not going to have that inflationary effect, because it's going to be trying to get a truck out of the mud.
And if you want any kind of a little refresher on inflation, how that all works, we did an episode on what actually is inflation.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. Or I'm sorry, our editor will put that in the show notes. Thanks, Whit.
Thanks.
So I don't buy anything. Listen, there are a lot of conspiracy theories. I understand the world. I have very strong feelings about military industrial complex, with Ukraine and Gaza right now. I get all, I'm not naive as to what's going on, but right now I just think it's kind of just incompetence and a live and let live capitalistic idea of this is all going to sort its way out and we just need to bring the landing in softly. But,
and then here we are in the trenches, just bad and bruised and oh my God, do something.
I know. But we'll get through it. And listen, we don't want this to be something that dissuades people from doing what they need to do.
Yeah, and
we are still getting, I had 4 settlements this week, and it's people are still buying houses, and they're always going to buy houses. It's just a matter of what it looks like.
Well, it's what I said to you on the phone earlier. It's this is totally a conspiracy theory, which is why I said it. But, I think it's easy to take a headline and the media just run with that and then just have that be people's only opinions on it.
Sure.
And not be able to think bigger and broader about the greater aspect, because you also were talking about then it's going to limit people's ability to spend their money into the market and just the goods and services market.
Yeah.
And they don't want that.
Yeah. I think the thing that kills that conspiracy theory is my point about the banks. The banks want loans. They want new loans. They want loans at new interest rates. They want new origination fees. They want new appraisals. They want to keep that engine going. And that's a lot of what the economic powers that be want to do. They want to keep money flowing. And if they just know that home prices are outstripping what people can afford, eventually it's going to there's just no way to have people do that much stuff against their own best interest. They're going to stop paying for homes. Mm-hmm. We're not there yet though. Homes are expensive right now, but people, I don't know how many buyers you're working with. I should, but
you just asked me 2 days ago.
I don't remember. But I mean, we still have people coming out of the woodwork every week asking to work with us.
Yeah.
You know, people still want homes, and
lenders are still making ways to find ways to make that happen and attainable and responsibly. So
yeah. So, all right. Well, if you have any other conspiracy theories,
I have plenty. They're not home related, but I've got plenty of other conspiracy theories.
We'll figure out maybe on another episode.
We'll
figure out a way to.
What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
No. We'll figure out a way to meander it around to housing.
The Princess Diana one though is like.
What is it? Real quick, what is the Princess Diana?
That I think that she's still alive.
Oh, you think she's
Nobody
still alive?
physically saw her come out of the tunnel. I think she is living up in Canada. I think that Prince Harry and Meghan actually know that she is still alive and that he's the only point of contact she's ever had. And
I have a question.
Yeah.
How many hours of YouTube videos have you watched on this theory?
It was more of multiple articles that I read, and quite a few. I've been on quite a few rabbit holes about it. But it sounds super probable.
Dude, I am.
And it goes all into just like the royal family and how there is so much proof to show that she knew that something was coming and they were trying to.
Listen, I am also.
And I think the crash was planned and they tried to kill her, but it didn't work.
Okay.
That's
well,
the
listen.
thing.
Let me ask you. First of all, I'm going to ask the audience, what is your favorite conspiracy theory?
And do you know this one?
And do you know this one? I had never heard this one, and honestly, I will admit, like, fine, she's in Canada. She's with the elves and Santa Claus. I have no idea. I don't know enough about what happened. It was when she died, 1997.
I think so. Something like that.
1997. I have no idea what happened. And God knows with the monarchy and all the shadowy shit they've done over the last 500 years, who knows? But is there a conspiracy theory that you really believe to the point where you don't think it's a conspiracy theory and then it's just fact? And for her,
also,
it's the
if I'm going to get in
Diana.
trouble for this with like bigger powers that be, then I don't believe it.
Yes. Disclaimer. Asterisks.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you guys.
All right. See you next time. Bye.